Hello, welcome back to another weekly live chat. My name is Laken, and I go live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern to answer any questions that you have about goals, planning life. And this year we have changed things up a little bit, which I can't believe we're already 3 months into this new format where I share with you my reading updates, my goal updates, and then we talk about a topic for the week. So I'm going to give it a second to let everyone jump in and start with my first question for you, which is, what is one small win that you have to share from the last week? You know, all small progress is still progress. I want you to share all of your wins, even if you feel like they are small. If you are here live, say hello in the chat and let us know what your win is. And if you are part of the replay fam, please comment in the comments that you are watching the replay and what your win is. I love reading through all the comments and seeing about all your wins. While I'm waiting for comments to come in, I will share mine. I filmed 5 videos last week. You'll see the April calendar in just a little bit. It's a little bit chaotic, just the way that the month is shaking out and some travel that we're doing. And I had a lot of content to get filmed for April, and I got the last 5 videos done last week, which feels really good. So that is my win for the week. It looks like I'm seeing people pop in. No comments have popped up yet, and I don't know if that's a YouTube delay issue, but I can't wait to hear about your wins. I see that there's eyeballs, but I don't see any comments. Okay, I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee and hope that they come up. I've got my Cool Mom Club cup, back to my regular Trader Joe's iced coffee, y'all. I liked the coffee that I had from Starbucks, not Starbucks. Where did I get coffee from? Costco. That's where my coffee was from. And it was good. And I liked that it was in a can and that I could limit myself to the amount of caffeine I was having per day to, like, when the can was done, I was done. But I just prefer the Trader Joe's. And I think the Costco one was a little bit less expensive, but okay. All the wins are popping up. Not about, let's focus on your wins and not my caffeine woes. Hello from SoCal, new community member, first time joining live. Welcome, Susie. It was nice having you on the call last night. And welcome to your first YouTube live. Finished your HB90 plan for Q2. I love it. I decided to DNF, which, if you are not in the reading world, stands for did not finish, 2 books I wasn't enjoying and trying not to feel guilty. Jennifer, I've said this before on a live. Life is too short to read books you don't like. It just is. And not every book is going to be for every person. And so you had 2 books that weren't worth it to you. Moving on. I would so much rather you read books that you enjoy, because that helps keep that habit and momentum of your reading going, rather than forcing yourself through books that aren't good for you. Signed your oldest up for kindergarten. Oh my gosh. Leah, you might appreciate this. I don't know what your childcare situation was before that, but I actually just saw the funniest reel on Instagram. That was a mom, like, fake crying and wiping her tears away with money, with cash. And it was like, when I'm sad about my oldest or my kid going to kindergarten, but happy that I'm not going to have to pay for daycare anymore, something like that. It was really funny. Called your bank and fixed your app issues. I don't know what issues you were having, a key, but I'm glad you got it figured out. I'm ahead of the game for April, and it feels good to be proactive and not playing catch up. I love that, Shannon. Finished 2 books. It's been nice to make room for fun reading again. Being disciplined about 11 to 7 sleep hygiene schedule this week. I love that. We had a conversation a few weeks ago about, like, sleeping in what window is best for your body. Also, sorry, y'all, this is bothering me. Why is one half of my lip darker than the other? What was that? It may just be the lighting, because it still looks that way to me. Okay. I can't look at myself in the mirror, in the screen. Anyways, we all have different cycles for sleep that are better for us. Speaking of sleep, Jamie as well been better about going to bed on time this week. This is so true. And of course, my youngest is 2 months behind yours, so still feeling the daycare tuition. Oh my gosh. That is so fun. That is so fun. Yeah, daycare is not inexpensive, or nanny or any kind of childcare. We are obviously very, very lucky that we have my mom's help right now with our little one when I'm doing stuff like this. All right, let's move into my reading updates for the week because I have a lot to share with you. And also, I need your help. So, I finished 2 books this week. I finished Chill and Prosper, which is a business book that was actually gifted to me by a business coach that's about like creating a business that allows you to chill and prosper, which very much aligns with kind of the shift I've been making in my own business for the last year or so. I started making the shift before we even were trying to start a family, but because I knew that's where we were headed and I wanted that lifestyle when we did have a family. The book itself is good. I gave it 4 stars, I think, on Goodreads. There's a lot to it. Like there's some mindset, there's some practicality, there's some money mindset, there's some marketing stuff. I feel like there were a lot of great takeaways, but at the same time, it kind of felt a little bit all over the place. So I feel like I enjoyed it, but I wasn't as like, oh, I need to keep reading this. I didn't feel like I was obsessed with it. I think it took me a while to get through compared to my normal reading speed versus the nonfiction book that I have moved into, which is How to Manage Your Home Without Losing Your Mind, which I have right here because I'm obsessed with it. I literally started it this morning and like, this is how far I am into it because every time I find like 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, I'm going to read another page. I'm going to read another page. If you've never heard, Dana K. White is the author. She started a blog post or a blog, not blog post, a blog website, whatever, a long time ago called A Slob Comes Clean. She also has a podcast that has like hundreds of episodes. She wrote the book Decluttering at the Speed of Life, which is a favorite of mine that I always recommend to anybody who has a decluttering goal at all. And I've been meaning to read this one for a very long time, and I finally started it, and I love it so far. So that is my current nonfiction hard copy. Then I also like to have a nonfiction audio going that I can listen to when I'm doing stuff around the house. And so I was listening to Green Lights, which is Matthew McConaughey's audiobook, finished it. I enjoyed it. It was technically a reread for me because I had read the physical book to 2-ish years ago when we were on our honeymoon. And I had heard lots of great things about the audiobook. So I grabbed that and it was good. I did like hearing his voice. He has had a very interesting life, like very interesting. And so I appreciated hearing it in his voice. Then here's the funny story, y'all. So if you watched the live from maybe that was week 2 or week 3, where I added in the autobiographies as part of my reading goal for this year. So let me rewind. If you are brand new here, and I saw that some of you were in the comments, I set a goal to read 15 very specific books in 2024. I was like, I'm not just going to set a general reading book goal. I'm going to read these specific books. And I did a video about that in December, which is linked below. Then I realized I wanted to also have fiction or nonfiction books that I could listen to while I was doing stuff, and autobiographies are really good for that for me. And so I added 5 autobiographies to my list to listen to on audiobooks. And I told you all about them. I told you about the 5. Also, we just got shade because the garbage man decided he needed to block my son. Anyways, I put on there Maggie Smith's book. Y'all, I thought this was Maggie Smith, like from Harry Potter. No, it is not. And so that was the book that I got next from the library. And I pressed play on it the other day after finishing Green Lights and was like, this isn't who I think it is. And I went and did more research. No, it's an author. It's a poet named Maggie Smith who then wrote an autobiography, not Maggie Smith from Harry Potter. I decided, even though that book had good reviews, I'm going to be much more interested in an autobiography of somebody that I know and have enjoyed in the past. So I literally went to the Libby app, which is what I use to get books from the library, and I sorted by autobiographies and audiobooks and available now because I wanted to start something now. And I started listening to Unprotected by Billy Porter. I did not know he wrote a book. Love, love, love Billy Porter. If you're a Broadway fan, you know. And so far, very much enjoying his book, read by him. I feel like also for me, it's got to be like an autobiography read by the author. That also adds an element to it. But I'm loving it so far. And I didn't have to wait from library. It was just available. So that is my new book. new audio nonfiction. Okay, so last week I talked about how I was listening to The Fourth Wing again, even though, yes, I read the book earlier this year, to fall asleep. I was listening to it for my sleep book to put me to bed. And I think I need to stop for a couple of reasons. One, it's getting more intense. And I mean, I know what happens, and one of you warned me about this in the comments last week. The narrator gets real intense. They get real into it. And I can't fall asleep necessarily to that intensity. And I started this because I did this with the entire Harry Potter series and I loved it. It was so relaxing and it just put me to sleep. And because it was a book I'd read many times before, it was just great. It's not working as much with The Fourth Wing. The other issue was I got it from the library. It's a long book. And at this rate, I'm not going to finish it. And so then I started finding myself listening to it during the day because I was like, well, I have to finish it before they take it from the library. And I was like, no, there are other things I want to be listening to during the day, like my autobiography book, the podcast, YouTube videos. Like my fiction audiobook is not for during the day reading. It is for going to bed. So I need your help. I would love if you could recommend audiobooks that you love for bedtime. So obviously not something so intense. And ideally is something I've read before, because I really do think that if it's something I haven't read before, I'm not gonna be able to drift off into sleep. I'm going to be like paying attention. Or is there like a sleep podcast or something else that you have used to listen to fall asleep that has worked well for you? Any recommendations you have, I am here for it. Those if you hear live, any recommendations, and then also those of you watching the replay. So that is the reading update. As always, I still have A Court of Thorns and Roses hanging out, trying to do it. I'm still at 85% on the Daily Stoic, so that feels good. And then overall for the year, I'm at 10 of my 20 planned books, which feels good where we're at, because the year is just going to get busier as the year goes on. So I'm glad that I'm like a little bit ahead. Okay, I'm coming to the chat. Leah, needless to say, sleep is not a goal at the moment. No, with a 4-month-old, probably not. Yes, I've learned not to feel bad about DNFing. Reading isn't part of a school syllabus anymore. That's a great way to phrase it. I also really enjoyed Manage Your Home. That's where I got the daily dishes habit. And so Jennifer, that's funny that you say that, because that's like the first thing that she says she started with. And I knew that from listening to her podcast and following her on Instagram. Like I knew that was going to be one of the things in this book, was talking about the dishes. And if you've been around, dishes are my husband's chore. That's on his list. I don't do the dishes in our house. And so I was like, well, what am I going to get from this book, or even from that specific thing, when I don't do the dishes? And I literally read that section this morning. And what did I highlight? It's not about the dishes. It's about finding what works in your family. What are you solving in your house? It may not, for her, it was the dishes. And for somebody else, it could be the dishes. But that's not my issue. And so anyway, I already got so much from it. I fall asleep to Pride and Prejudice. Oh, I've never read that. And so I feel like it's got to be, something I've read before. I use a book that I've read a million times as my sleep book. Yes. And I also think the other piece, which I feel like is kind of, I kind of implied, I need to not get it from the library, because I need to not feel rushed to get through it. So I need to actually buy it from Audible so that I can just do it at my own pace. So yeah, I have never read either of those books at Key, so those are not it for me. But I feel like that's my solution too, is it's got to be a book I've read a bunch of times. And I'm trying to think of like a fiction book or series that I've read. Like, it's probably nothing I've read as much as Harry Potter. But Calm and Balance apps are wonderful for meditation. Yeah, I've heard good things about those, Susie, but I've never been a meditation person, but maybe like to fall asleep, it could work. The Chronicles of Narnia. Oh my gosh. Jamie, that might be a good option. I'm currently listening to The Age of Innocence and I keep falling asleep. It's good though. I've never read that either. I like sleep hypnosis books from Audible. Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. I use the app Insight Timer. It has nature sounds, meditation, but also tons of others to listen to before sleep. I can't do audiobooks. Even if I've read them, I get into listening. I feel that. That's why I feel like it has to be something I've read a lot. Twilight. That's actually an option. There's a version of Pride and Prejudice by Rosamund Pike who played Jane in the movie. I listened to my current audiobook and set a 20-minute timer so I know what I probably missed. Yeah, and the Libby app has a sleep timer. And that's what I've done. I set the sleep timer, and I typically will do the end of the chapter. So like I know exactly where it ended, and then I can rewind to wherever I fell asleep. It's not working as well with Fourth Wing as it did with Harry Potter. Do you have a YA series that you've read and enjoyed? Hunger Games, Divergent. I like both of those. My fear is it going to be the same situation where it's just like intense and I'm not going to be able to listen to actually fall asleep? Have I read anything that's calm that could put me to sleep? I don't know. Yeah, this is the other thing I do too. Listen to the same TV episode over and over again. Yeah, I do that too. I do that more if I am up in the middle of the night. I will put on Gilmore Girls and just like fall asleep. Calm has some sleep stories with Stephen Fry, who narrates Harry Potter. I love his voice. Is that the guy's? I thought it was a different guy that I listened to do Harry Potter. I don't remember his name. Audible also has bedtime series, but I haven't tried them. I haven't heard of that. I do have a public Goodreads account. It's linked in the description box. Yeah. Sometimes I'm not as good about checking it to go in there and like accept people. I wish there was a way, like even if you have a public account, you have to still accept people. You can't just, well, let me take it back. There's like two different things. There's like follow and there's friends. And I think you can follow anybody, but I don't think you can, I don't think you can, I think I still have to accept you to be a friend. And I don't know what the difference is. And I will accept anybody. I don't care. It's just like I don't do it very often because I don't open Goodreads unless I'm like finishing a book. Jim Dale. That's who I listened to the Harry Potter books by. It was amazing. Amazing. Stephen Fry did the UK and Jim Dale did the US. Okay. And Aki, you're in Europe. So that makes sense. There are YouTube channels that specialize in content for storytelling that help you fall asleep. Wendy, I didn't know that. Okay. I just followed your Goodreads, but yeah, you have to accept friends. As long as you have public profile, I think the followers can still see the same as friends. Oh, okay. So then maybe it doesn't matter if I'm accepting people as friends, but I'm like an anti-notification person. So if I open Goodreads and there's like people that have requested to be my friend, I will accept them because I'm not about to have those notifications. There's a good version of Little Women in Audible. I have read it before, but not enough. I've read it like once or twice, not like Harry Potter length reading or frequency. What about ASMR sleep videos on YouTube? I've never looked at those. Susie, have any of you tried sleep light therapy? I suspect my nervous system is very sensitive to light dark triggers. I have not, but I will say we recently got blackout curtains in our bedroom, and I don't think I'm sensitive to light with sleep. And we got them because Sam wanted them, but I do think they're helping. I think they're really great. Oh, this is a good point about using YouTube for sleeping. Do you have to have premium YouTube to avoid commercials? I would hope that if the video is about sleep, they would do ads at the beginning and not do ads in the middle. Like I would hope that that's how they would tackle that, but like who knows, right? Who knows? I do pay for YouTube Premium, mostly for the download feature. That's why I like YouTube Premium. I bought it when I used to take the subway to and from work, which feels like a different lifetime, but I did that, about 4 years ago. I was taking the subway to and from work. And when you're underground, you don't have service. I wanted YouTube Premium to be able to download. So I haven't watched ads in I don't know how long. Moonlight Cottage ASMR. Okay. You can also add a video to a playlist if you don't have premium. Good to know. Also, River J being my guinea pig. If your YouTube name is not the name you prefer to go by, I really appreciate you including your name in your handle. Even though River J, you do not have to be the guinea pig anymore because I know your name. But last week, River J asked about emails, and that turned into a whole conversation about emails. Wanted to update you that we took care of all those emails way better, but they are done. Thanks for the courage. I love it. ASMR videos generally don't put ads in the middle unless YouTube decides to be a jerk. Oh, yeah. Peloton has sleep meditations. I forgot about that. Maybe I'll try those. Okay. I appreciate all of you very much. I did not mean for this to take as long as it did, but it was definitely something that either last night or the night before I was at the section in Fourth Wing where I don't want to give anything away, but two of the main characters are like sparring for the first time. And the author or the narrator was awesome, but they were just like so into it. And I was like, okay, this is not putting me to sleep. So I need something else. Okay. Let's quickly do a goal check-in. So here is my goal planner as of this morning. I've already filmed my March goals video. It will be out next week, or my March into April goals video. So this is above and beyond that, but it not much has changed from what I filmed in that video, other than that I'm just still chugging on my weekly, my monthly tasks and reading my nonfiction. Everything else is basically the same as it was. But the one thing I'm doing this year that's a little bit differently, in prior years, I have been really good about goals up until I film that video. And then once I film that video, this piece of paper doesn't matter anymore because I'm done showing it to you. And I'm like, well, forget it. Like, I'm not going to track it. I'm just going to take a break between filming of the video and the start of the next month. And that is so silly. And so first off, the fact that I'm sharing it here is really great because I am being held accountable to sharing it with you. And I know last week we talked about whether I was going to keep these. And so many of you were like, the repetition is fine. We're here for the repetition. So I appreciate that. Oh, I did make a little pop up for that. And then the other thing that I'm doing is saving it so I can, at the end of the year, see all my progress. That's all stacked up together. So here's my March check-in. Still chugging along. I'm feeling really good about the process of the monthly and the weekly tasks. In fact, it's going to be a topic in a live in a few weeks because I know that it's working for me. Doesn't mean it's going to work for you, but I'm going to share what has been working for me. So love the color coding. Can you quickly explain if any meaning to your colors? So Susie, I know that this is your first live, which means you may have not watched any of my prior goals videos. So I will link it below after the live is over. But if you go back and watch the very first video I did about my goals for the year, I have 4 goals for 2024, and that's what the colors associate with. So each goal for the year, which, do I have that easy to grab? No, I don't. Each goal is its own color. And then the action steps here match up with those goals. So the orangey color is make time for myself. That's the overarching annual goal. So these are the steps related to that. The pink one, it's more purple in person, but looks pink on the screen, is family fun and memories. And then blue is family rhythms and routines. And then the teal is enjoy being in the kitchen. And so these are all the action steps that go with those specific goals. So you'll see in April too, that orange is the big pop one I'm very focused on right now. In the community call next week, can we wrap up March goals and check in with April too? Jennifer, besides the wins, what do you mean by wrap? I'm asking from absolutely. Yes. The answer is yes. So I can check off completed things in March. Yeah. I have a slide to check in and fill out the wins pages. But yeah, we'll make sure that there's plenty of time on next week's call to wrap up March and kick off April. It's tough. I feel like in an ideal world, y'all, we would have a community call on the first of the month every month. We would always do them on the first so that we can just have that seamless transition into a new month. And maybe in some world we do that. I mean, I don't know why I didn't do that this month. Like, why didn't I do it it was a Monday. Like, I could have done it on the 1st in April. It's too late now. Things are already scheduled around that. In May, we are going to do it on the 1st. And then in June, see, the 1st is on a Saturday. So that's not necessarily going to work well. Oh, we'll figure it out. Because I too forget to finish out the month on the goal sheet. My issue wasn't maybe necessarily forgetting so much as it was, sorry, I'm distracted. I can hear my peanut crying. Somebody doesn't want to take a nap. As much as I just got lazy. Okay. One more thing before we get into the topic. Wow. Normally I'm like wrapping up the topic at this point. I appreciate y'all sticking with me. So here is the calendar. Where do I want to put myself? Yeah, there we go. Let's do it this way. Here's the calendar for April. I had a great question actually from Susie talking about the color coding on the calendar, that I wanted to share it and like quickly make sure everyone understands what the colors are. So the red, where it says new YouTube video, that is a pre-recorded YouTube video that will be live that day. So obviously every Monday there's going to be a new YouTube video. Next week on Tuesday, there's going to be a bonus video. I decided that just because how the month shook out, instead of either not doing a live next week and let me rewind. Monday's video is my quarterly goals video. I've always done 2 separate videos for quarterly goals and monthly goals. And I want to keep it the same because it's just easier to go back and reference. So option 1 was to not do the live on Wednesday and do the April goals there instead. I didn't love that idea because I love the lives. Option 2 was to do the April goals video on the 8th, but that felt silly because like it's already the 8th and here's my April goals. So instead, there's going to be a bonus video on the 2nd. And then the last week, and then let me say this first. And then the hot pink color is the lives here. If you're here now, you know that they're here at 1 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. Except for the last week of April, we are going to be in Houston celebrating Passover with my in-laws. So there will not be a live that Wednesday, but there will be a YouTube video in its place. And this is why my win this week was filming 5 videos, because there were 7 videos in April. There are some months that there's only 4. If there's only 4 Mondays and I'm doing all the lives, there's only 4 videos that month. And this month there were 7. And then the blue font is the coaching calls. So these are within the community and these are the different topics. So they're typically in the same order, kind of depending on where the days of the week fall with the months. But we start with the Q&A. The next one is the power hour where we actually work on our goals together. Then we have hot seat coaching. And then the monthly goals call this month is going to be pre-recorded because I will be in Houston. So I'm going to pre-record that and it will go live on Monday, the 22nd. So that is the calendar for April. I can't believe it's already April. It's a busy month, but some different like nuances to the month compared to normal months. Some months are like super boring where it's like new YouTube video on Monday, all the calls are on Tuesday and all the lives are on Wednesday and it just like is perfect. April is not that month. So, all right, let's move into the topic because otherwise we are going to be here forever and I'm not going to get to answer any of your questions. Take some coffee. All right. Here's the number one mindset that is holding you back from accomplishing your goals. And I want to tell you now so that you don't give up on 2024, even though we still have 9 months left. You could literally grow an entire human. I know I said that last week. You could grow an entire human in the rest of this calendar year. Are you ready? Progress is not linear. You are not going to make the exact same progress every day, every week, every month. Your progress is going to fluctuate. And we all struggle with this. We think that our progress is going to look like this. It's going to be perfect. We're going to have the same amount of progress every month over the whole year, right? This is just like an arbitrary graph that I made where you hit 5 out of 10 in progress every month over the course of the year. But the truth is, it's probably going to look a little bit like this, where it's going to fluctuate, right? This example, this person came out of the gate swinging. They had 8, they had 7 in 8 in January, 7 in February, and then March got a little chaotic. and spring break hit them, sickness hit them, daylight savings is still screwing with them, and their progress in March was really low. But instead of just giving up and saying, oh, well, March was terrible and bad, that's it, I'm done. The rest of the year is over. I'm just going to fail the rest of the year. They worked their way back up, and there were still some fluctuations, right? That first month of summer, June, not so sure about what my goal progress was going to look like that month. And the progress kind of fluctuates. It could also look like this. Maybe January wasn't your month. Maybe you weren't quite ready for the year yet, and your progress in January was really low. And then you started to get a little bit more progress in February and March as you kind of figured things out. And then things will kind of slow down a little bit towards the end of summer. Maybe your kids are home all summer and you're kind of losing steam by July and August, and then you pick it back up when they get back to school. But what's cool about all of this is that all three of these average to the same amount of progress over the course of the year. In all three of these scenarios, the average progress is 5. So in total, the progress is 60. Again, these are just like arbitrary numbers. I'm not saying like 60 hours. One time I showed this graph somewhere and someone was like, does this mean 60 hours towards my goals? And I was like, no. I just mean like in general, like in progress out of 10, you had a 5 out of 10. Scenario 1 is 5 out of 10 every month over the course of the year. That is probably not going to happen for any single person. Nobody's is going to look like the first graph. Everybody's is going to look like some combination of the bottom two. And your progress can look very different from somebody else's. But at the end of the year, you could have the exact same amount of progress. The reminder is that it's not linear, is that it is going to fluctuate. And so you cannot let yourself get frustrated when you have one of those lower months and think that you're going to fail over the course of the rest of the year. So let's talk about some tips for getting through this. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 tips for things to think about. Number 1 is to have different options for different days. We talked about this a lot on the call, the community coaching call last night while we were talking about energy. When we think about progress not being linear, the graphs I showed were over the course of the months, right? It also is true over the course of the days. You're going to have days that you're going to make more progress or less progress. So have different options. Instead of being so rigid and saying like, if I don't read 15 minutes a day, every single day, I'm never going to hit my reading goal. Well, what happens if one day things are extra busy, you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and you find that you only have 5 minutes to read when you normally have 15? Well, then you read for 5 minutes. 5 minutes is better than 0. And then on the flip side, maybe there's a day where everything goes really smoothly and you have some extra time and you find yourself in bed a little bit early and now you have 30 minutes to read. There is no rule in goal setting that says you have to do the exact same thing every day to be successful. Is it beneficial for you to do something every day? Yes, that keeps your momentum going. I've done lots of videos on momentum and how doing something every day is helpful. But it doesn't have to be the same every day. So have different options. It could be very as simple as what I just said. It could be a minute option. It could be I read for 5 minutes at baseline, at minimum. My average goal for average everyday me is 15 minutes, and then above and beyond is something more than that. It could be they're different. When we lived in New York, I used to have different options for tidying up at the end of the day. If you've been around, you know I am a morning person. I like to get my things done in the morning. By the time we get to the afternoon, I am spent, and the evening even more so. But I still wanted to tidy up a little bit at the end of the day. So my bare bones minimum was my desk. If I could do just anything at the end of the day, it was tidy up my desk. Now, were there days I still didn't even do that? Absolutely. But most days I can handle my desk. Then the next level, or the average me, was my office. Can I just make sure my office is picked up? And now my office in Chicago is much bigger than it was in New York. So that's a little bit more of a stretch nowadays. And then the superhero version of me, the highest level, was the whole apartment. That rarely happened. But if I had the energy, sometimes I was like, let's spend it. Let's tidy up the whole apartment. But ultimately, what I want you to think about is setting a bare bones minimum of like what you can do on your hard days, and then have an average. What am I going to do on my average days? And then you have your superhero you. The issue is that we typically set our habit goals at the superhero version and then get frustrated when we can't do it every day. So have different options. Next, in case this wasn't clear from the graph, is you cannot compare your progress to other people. You cannot compare where your bars are at to somebody else's bar. Somebody else may have had a killer January, and you are sitting here looking at your January and you're like, wow, I did not do as much as they did. You have no idea what was going on. Maybe they thrive in the winter, and so they're able to stay at home and get all these things done. Or maybe they have extra help. Their spouse is a professor that doesn't go back to school until the 20th. And so they're able to help with childcare and they can get all these things done. Like I'm literally just throwing out examples. You have no idea why that person was able to make all that progress. So do not compare the progress you're making to somebody else. It also comes down to priorities. We all have different priorities, and the amount of time that we spend on any given goal is based on our individual priorities and our individual lives. And so because somebody else makes a lot of progress means that they're prioritizing it, and that's awesome for them. But for another person, they may not. That's not a priority for them. There is no right or wrong. There is no good or bad. It is just prioritization and different options. And nobody has your life, nobody has your priorities, and nobody has your goals, your exact goals. So do not compare your progress to other people, especially don't compare it to perfect linear person, because this person doesn't exist. So definitely don't compare it to that person. All right, the last one, number 3. You've got to celebrate your wins. Y'all know I love celebrating wins. We start this call. This is not a call, Laken. This is a live. We start every week with you sharing your wins. I start every community call with them sharing their wins. I am very much we have to celebrate our wins because we're not good at it. We are not good at celebrating our wins. What we also need to do is focus on what we did accomplish. Instead of looking, like going back to my goal sheet, right? Instead of going to this and looking at all the things that I didn't do, instead of looking at all the empty spaces and all the not check marks and all the little dots on the daily sections, I want to focus on what I did do. Look at all those check marks. I just clicked on something on my computer. Look at all those tallies. Look at all those numbers. Look at the progress that I did make. Focusing on what you did accomplish is going to give you the oomph to keep going, especially in a scenario like this where January was low and you're like, I need that oomph to move into February, or like when March was low and you need that oomph to move into April. Notice that these aren't zero. Now, if you have a 0 progress month, that happens, right? I very much last year when I was in my first trimester and I could barely function as a person, we were also trying to move and I was still trying to work. There was maybe a month or two where my goal progress was pretty close to 0. My guess though is that it wasn't actually 0. And if I took a second to actually focus on what I did do, I would notice that it was higher than 0, which is why I didn't make any of these months 0. Notice none of them are 0. Some of them are low, but none of them are 0. I want you to focus on what you did do and not the empty space and what you didn't do. So that is what I've got for you today. If you need more mindsets like this, ongoing reminders, if you're part of the community, you've seen those graphs before because I've shared them before, because I am constantly reminding you of things like this, mindsets like this, where you need that extra oomph, that extra reminder to keep going and keep focusing on your goals. Come join the community. It's also a great time if you have not set up your goals for Q2 and or April. The replay from that call is up and you can take the time this weekend to get that all set up. But the link to join the community is in the description box. All right, I'm going to go to the comments over here. It looks sort of like my erratic sleep schedule. Yes, keep showing up. I have high and low energy tasks now and built a lot more buffer time into my schedule. I can always add more, but then I don't start that guilt shame spiral that's so easy to get into. Yes, when I was talking about the different options, that's the struggle, is that if you set your minimum to that highest level, then the days that you can't do that, which is probably often, you are more likely to guilt, shame, and like negative spiral and give up on it, right? And then the buffer time is another big tip here that I do a lot with options is, and it's harder now that I have a little one, but what I used to do was I had a buffer time built at the end of my day. And I would take what I needed with that time. Some days I had all the energy in the world and I worked through all that buffer time. Some days I was spent and I rested through that buffer time. Most days it was some split down the middle, some split of buffer time, of work time and rest time. Would be interesting to see if we have predictable highs and lows somewhat dictated by seasonal changes. Even though I'm in SoCal with pretty moderate weather, I get sad. I'm assuming seasonal, what's it stand for? Seasonal something depression? Um, somewhat. Absolutely. But I also think the reminder here is that everybody's different. Some people, like as a morning person, I was just talking to my best friend about this yesterday. As a morning person, these first couple of weeks of daylight savings time are tough for me because I was getting up at 6 to 6:30 and it was light out. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting up at 6 to 6:30 and it's dark. And for a couple of weeks, I have to deal with that. And it's not fun. But for people who are evening people, the change, daylight savings, are like seasonal affective disorder. Yeah, that's what it stands for. But for evening people, this change, having that extra hour of daylight at the end of the day, magical. Like it absolutely can just immediately help with their mood. So everybody is different. And so there are some people that I also was talking to somebody yesterday who loves it being cold and can't stand the heat. And so for them, the summer is going to be a tough time. The heat, pretty much no matter where you live, it's warmer in the summer and it is going, I'm talking US. Most of us here in our community are in the US. Those of you in Europe or those of you on the other side of the equator, your situation is going to be different. But in the summer, if you're not a person who thrives in the heat, you're going to struggle and you might be crushing it in the winter when it's chilly. Everybody is different. And so that's why, that's why there's so many scenarios, right? Like everybody's is going to look different based on your life, how you're impacted by, yes, the weather, the seasons, are your kids in school? Are they not in school, etc. I'm also struggling with the darkness in the mornings too. Yeah, it's tough. But then the flip side, the silver lining is we could go for an evening walk as a family when Sam is done with work because it's still light out. Like that's lovely. So it's just like, well, I wish I could just have both. And I can in a little bit when it's summer, when it's truly like give it a couple of weeks and the sunrise will be back down to before I get up and the sunset will still be late and it will be great. I struggle with both because I'm a morning person, but hate when there's no daylight after work, especially as a photographer. I am sure. Yeah, I always used to say the hardest part about the daylight was when I lived in New York, and it would be light when I left the office, and then I would get on the subway to go home, and it would be dark when I got out of the subway. That was the worst. Like I missed that last bit of daylight being underground. That was like my least favorite time of year, was that sunset time. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, some of these reminders, you've probably heard me talk about it before, but it doesn't hurt to hear it again. It doesn't matter what you did in January, February, and March. I know that both of these examples have people making progress in Q1. And maybe you had a really low January, February, and March. And that's okay. You can still make progress the rest of the year. There's still 9 months left. All right. It is Q&A time. This is your time. Normally I aim for closer to 30 minutes, but we have 15 minutes left. Any questions that are on your mind, anything you want to chat about, it can be about your individual goals or struggles. It can be a topic. If you don't know how to phrase it into a question, you can put topic, whatever the topic is, or whatever's on your mind, whatever you want to chat about. Topic: hyper focusing on certain tasks and having a hard time moving on to something else. Great question. I am sure that this is also partially driven by your personality. Morgan, thank you for including your name. People in general, like whether you are somebody who can be hyper focused or you're somebody who gets distracted, is probably innately driven a little bit by your personality. Because I actually I struggle with hyper focus. My issue is more not focusing on certain tasks. So I may not be the best person for advice for this particular topic because I struggle with the opposite. But the number one thing that pops off of my head is a timer. You have this amount of time to work on it, and then you're done. And I would ask yourself, what is keeping you from moving on? Is it that you are trying to make it perfect? And in that case, I reference you back to a video on perfectionism. Is it that you are enjoying it? And if that's the case, do you need to do the hard thing first, or the thing that you need to get done before you do the enjoyment? Is it that it's never going to be done? Like, there are steps actually in this book that I've referenced a million times at this point about cleaning your house. She's like, cleaning your house is not a project because it's never going to be done. It's ongoing. It is not a project. Projects have ends. Cleaning your house is ongoing. Is a task never going to be done because it's not a project, it's ongoing? Well, then moving on is going to be hard. And so you've got to have a method to cut yourself off. And whether that method is a quantity of time, whether that method is a time of day, right? Maybe you're hyper focused on something and you need to say, okay, I need to be done at this time of day. That's something that I've been talking to someone in my life about with like work, is like, you can always go back and do more work and like emails later, but maybe you try like, okay, at 6 p.m. at that time of day, I'm taking a break and I'm stepping away from work, and then I can always go back if I need to, or feel like there's things that have to get done. Because most of the time they're putting out all the fires and like doing the necessary stuff before that time. And I think at the end of the day, it might be some trial and error for you, Morgan, to figure out what works best for you as a person. And I know that can be frustrating because you're like, I don't want to like waste time trying things. Let me read you a quote from this book. Where is it? And I even like took a picture of it. That was like, where did it go? It was like, if you keep trying to find the perfect thing. Oh, excuse me. Hang on. While I'm busy searching for the best way to do something, I'm not getting anything done. So guilty of that. Okay. There's some suggestions here from people. Maybe it would be helpful to make notes when ending a task so you know where to pick back up the next day. That's a great suggestion and a great tip. A timer will assist. If I lose track of time, and a timer sets me back to reality. I have a hard time stopping because I don't want to lose the inspiration, but I think it would help to brain dump at the end of working on something and come back to it with my yesterday perspective. Yeah, that's a great thing. Maybe a shifting tasks routine, something to help your brain move out of one task and be ready to start something else. I love that. I something similar I heard Sarah Cannon say on one of her lives, was talking about, somebody had asked about writing 2 books at once. And she was talking about something like this, where it was like, you've got to have situations where it's like, I can focus on this book and then I pivot. And whether it's like a location change, or you light a different candle and it's like, this scent is for this book and this scent is for this book, or something like that. Yeah. Can setting more, I'm assuming you mean concrete, not concert, and smaller milestones to hit. That's a good idea. It's mainly on things I enjoy, whether it be reading or hobbies. I make time for it and then I can't stop. Like, the thing you enjoy, you can't stop, or you can't stop the other stuff to do the things you enjoy. I want to make sure I'm understanding that right. Brenda, as far as nonlinear progress, I learned that a day or two that is not productive actually results in a more productive month overall for me. Rest helps me reach my bigger goals. Rest is key, y'all. Rest is so important. Yeah, I love that. Also, I still have so much coffee left because I've been talking, doing so much talking. Oh, you can't stop doing the things you enjoy. Okay. So my first question would be is, do you have to stop doing the things you enjoy? And if we're talking like it's time, like what is it that you need to be doing when you stop? And is it, if it's something like going to bed, or starting work in the morning or something like that, then maybe it's a time. Like when you're done, set the timer, and when it goes off, like you're done. Or is it that you need to be doing other stuff so then the dishes don't get done? I would recommend, if this is something you're struggling with, you do the dishes before you do the things you enjoy. That way they get done. And then you can just do the things you enjoy and you don't feel like you have to stop. You could still try a timer if you really want to keep it the order that you're doing it. But if you really struggle with that, I would recommend maybe doing the dishes or insert whatever thing you have to do first and then do the fun thing. I am a procrastinator, deadline rather than goal driven. My struggle is to just start. Once started, I'm good and I don't want to stop. An accountability buddy system or even Pomodoro sprint helps. Oh, for sure. I'm the same way. And honestly, that's why I started time tracking again, because I found that when I time track, I am much more likely to just start, because then I can check off and like document the time I spent on something. Whereas if I don't, it's, even if I know I'm not going to get to the end of it, at least I'm getting to track that I spent time on it. So yeah, I can totally relate to that. Hopefully some of these suggestions were a little bit helpful for you, Morgan. Yeah, make the fun thing your win or reward for washing the dishes. That might just be your best option. I know it's not fun. I know that's not great. It's not necessarily what you want to hear, but it is going to probably be the most helpful if it is something you really struggle with. Anybody else? Any other questions? Struggles on your mind? Ready for Q2? Ready for April? Another magical quarter where it starts on a Monday. And we have it next quarter too. April and July both start on Mondays. Oh, it's so great. It's like a fresh start. It's a whole new year. Starts on Monday. Tell us about caffeine intake, if you will. I'm super sensitive and need to cut it off by 2 p.m. We're all different here. So, and I'm not a doctor. I have no exact knowledge of this. I just personally, for me, it's less about it impacting my sleep that I notice, and more that I notice it doesn't have the effect I want. When I'm drinking too much caffeine, then I notice that when I drink it, I don't feel the normal energy boost that I get with caffeine, if that makes sense. And so then I want to cut myself off a little bit. I also, this is the other thing I tell myself, I can do it because I did it when I was pregnant. I limited my caffeine intake when I was pregnant and I still survived. I still functioned, kind of. So I can do it. I don't need as much caffeine as I think I do. I just love coffee. And so like there are lower caffeine options, there's decaf options. Like doesn't need to be coffee. It doesn't need to be caffeinated. That's my point. So I don't have any hard and fast rules for myself nowadays. It's just more of, I'm just trying to be more thoughtful. And it's like, do I need another cup of coffee, or do I just want something fun to sip on while I'm working? If so, can I have tea or decaf or something? So ready for Q2. The eve of a new quarter is always my favorite. I know, me too. Ready for Q2. I just need to prioritize the refresh since I'm off maternity leave. It's tough to fit it in with the time now that you have a new baby and you're back at work. Just a reminder, you don't have to do it all in one sitting, because finding a 2-hour chunk of time is probably going to be really tough for you. So don't worry about that. Break it up. Do 4 30-minute chunks or 3 45-minute chunks. That's not quite enough, but you know what I mean? Actually, that's more than enough is what I meant to say. But break it up into little chunks and remember that some refresh is better than no refresh. And so just do your best. Jennifer, this comment makes me happy. I never cared or paid any attention to what day the month started on. Now, when I see the month starts on a Monday, I always think of you. Jennifer, you also have a crazy work schedule that doesn't allow you necessarily to think about Mondays as the same way as other people think about Mondays in general. But yes, I'm always here for a month that starts on a Monday. It makes me very happy. Except these dang calendars above me that are Sunday start calendars. I know so many of you have said to just like, I tried, whoever suggested like rubbing alcohol, it didn't come off. And I've tried like washi, I've tried stickers, and I just don't like the way it looks. So I may just have to suck it up and like invest in some more. These are like $8 a piece. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, let me just like quickly do this so you can see them, the monthly calendars. I may just have to suck it up and buy some pricier ones that are Monday starts. But it's not that serious. Also on a not serious topic, do you see our new little friend here that Sam got me for my birthday? I told him we're done now. Like we're done with the stuffies, whatever you want to call them. The brand is called Jellycat. We started with the avocado and then the pizza and then the football. And then we basically like did all the holidays. Do you have an office tour video? Yes, I think. Why can't my brain remember? I know I have a shelf tour video in a very recent vlog. I don't know that I ever did a full office tour video because there's not much to my office besides the shelves. There's literally the desk that you're sitting on, the shelves, and the closet. There's nothing else in here. So I can't remember. If I did, I will link it. We've been here a year. Why can't I remember, y'all? If I can find one, Susie, I will link it. Like I want to say yes, but I also can't remember. I think not for Chicago. Oh, I know there's one for New York. Yeah, I know for sure I did one in New York. But maybe not. All right, maybe not. And your camera lights. I have shown some of that in some like behind the scenes videos. You're just on my computer camera. I don't have a special camera for this. For other videos, I use the Canon G7X. I've had this camera for so long, y'all. It's taped because one of the little screws came out and I haven't replaced it. So it's like literally being held together by tape. It's probably time for me to like invest in a new camera, but it's also probably time for me to invest in a new computer. But I don't want to do that either. Oh my gosh, it's already 12:58. Y'all, distracted by time. Okay, last question. My question for you. What is one thing you're going to do this week to make progress on your goals? What is the one small step that you are going to take to continue to make progress? It doesn't have to be huge, but what are you committed to doing between today and the next live? If you're watching the replay and you're still here, I would love to hear about your step in the comments as well. Whatever day you're watching the replay, what is the thing you commit to do between the time that you're watching the replay and 1 week from that time? Mine is finish my sticky notes for Q2 for my Kanban board. So I actually bought new sticky notes. I can't really show you because they're like all over my desk. I clicked reorder on Amazon and they're different colors. It's the same colors, but they're different shades than the ones I had before. So that's unfortunate for me. Make progress on packing, rest and enjoy. This weekend is Easter, so doing all the family things, packing for your first trip to Denver and creating your spring wardrobe, clean your pantry cupboard, put the laundry away. It's literally all over your bedroom. It's going to feel so good when it's gone, Brittany. Keep showing up, finish your Q2 goals planning. I love it. That replay is there for you, Susie, so you can get them all set up. Y'all. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I appreciate all of your thoughtful comments and questions and your help with the sleep things. I'm going to have to go back through those again and figure out what I'm going to try. But if you wouldn't mind giving this video a thumbs up before you head out, I would greatly appreciate that. And if you're new here, please click that subscribe button. I will see you again next week. Have a great day.